Nigerian extradited to U.S. for sextortion, a global fight against online exploitation. Welcome to the Bold African Voice, BAV, where we bring you critical analyses and insightful perspectives on the most pressing issues impacting Africa and the world. I'm Abdul Karim Kargbo, born and raised in Africa. In today's video, we're tackling a chilling case of sextortion that has caught global attention: Nigerian national Hassanbunhussein Abolore Lawal's extradition to the United States. Join us as we break down the case, explore the wider implications for Africa, and discuss how we can fight the rising tide of online exploitation together. Stay tuned. Introduction. Sextortion, a form of sexual blackmail involving the threat to release intimate images unless demands are met, has emerged as a significant global concern. Recent high-profile cases, such as the extradition of Nigerian national Hassanbunhussein Abolore Lawal to the United States for allegedly extorting a South Carolina teen, highlight the severe consequences of this crime. The Nigerian context: in Nigeria, sextortion is perpetrated by groups known as Yahoo Boys, who exploit online platforms to deceive individuals into sharing explicit content. Once obtained, these images are used to extort money from victims under the threat of public exposure. The proliferation of affordable internet access and the allure of a lavish lifestyle have contributed to the rise of these cybercriminal activities. Africa-wide comparison. While Nigeria is notably affected, sextortion is a Pan-African issue. In the Middle East and North Africa, Transparency International reports that 1 in 5 individuals has experienced sextortion when accessing government services. Similarly, in sub-Saharan Africa, sexual extortion is recognized as a pervasive form of corruption, disproportionately affecting women. Recent developments. In September 2024, 2 Nigerian brothers were sentenced to 5 years in prison in the United States for a sextortion scheme that led to the suicide of a Michigan teenager. Additionally, Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, removed over 63,000 accounts linked to Nigerian sextortion activities in July 2024. Forward-looking approach to combat sextortion effectively. A multifaceted approach is essential. 1. Public awareness, educating individuals about the risks of sharing intimate content online and the tactics used by perpetrators. 2. Legislative measures, enacting and enforcing laws that specifically address sextortion, with stringent penalties for offenders. 3. International cooperation, enhancing collaboration between countries to track and prosecute cross-border cybercriminals. 4. Technological solutions, developing and implementing tools to detect and prevent the distribution of non-consensual explicit content. 5. Support systems, establishing confidential support services for victims to report incidents and seek assistance. Sextortion is a complex and evolving crime that requires a coordinated global response. By understanding its dynamics and implementing comprehensive strategies, societies can work towards mitigating its impact and protecting vulnerable individuals from exploitation. Impact on victims. The psychological and emotional toll on victims of sextortion can be devastating. Many victims experience extreme shame, guilt, and fear, which often lead to self-harm or suicide, as in the cases of Gavin Guffey and Murray Dowie, both of whom tragically took their own lives after falling prey to sextortion schemes. These individuals, like many others, were targeted by perpetrators who used manipulation and threats to extort money, leading to a cycle of distress and fear. Such cases highlight the urgent need for mental health support for victims, especially vulnerable teenagers and young adults who may not have the resources or awareness to protect themselves from such exploitation. The social stigma surrounding sextortion often prevents victims from reporting crime. Many are fearful of being blamed for the exploitation or feel embarrassed about their intimate photos being exposed. Consequently, the lack of reporting makes it harder for authorities to identify patterns of abuse and take preventive action. This underreporting phenomenon is exacerbated in many African countries, where cultural taboos around sexuality and the shame associated with public exposure hinder victims from seeking help. The role of social media platforms. Social media platforms such as Instagram, Facebook, and Snapchat play a central role in sextortion schemes, providing perpetrators with the means to identify and target victims. These platforms are often used to create fake profiles or impersonate individuals, making it easier for criminals to deceive and manipulate unsuspecting users. In response, Platforms like Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, have taken action to curb these activities, including the removal of tens of thousands of Nigerian accounts suspected of involvement in sextortion scams. However, while these actions are a step in the right direction, more robust efforts are needed. Critics argue that tech companies could do more to detect and prevent sextortion activities by implementing stricter verification processes for new accounts and using advanced artificial intelligence to flag suspicious activity before it escalates. Furthermore, the anonymity that the internet provides makes it difficult for authorities to trace perpetrators, particularly those operating across borders. As seen in the case of Lawal's extradition, cross-border cooperation between law enforcement agencies becomes crucial in ensuring that cybercriminals face justice. Extradition as a solution. The extradition of Hassanbunhussein Abolore Lawal to the U.S. represents a significant moment in the fight against international sextortion networks. It not only demonstrates Nigeria's willingness to cooperate with foreign authorities in prosecuting individuals involved in cybercrimes, but it also sets a precedent for future cases. Lawal's extradition was made possible through an agreement with the Nigerian government, which stipulated that he would not face the death penalty if convicted, ensuring a fair trial process in accordance with international human rights standards. This case exemplifies the increasing collaboration between African governments and international law enforcement agencies as they work together to combat cybercrime. Extradition agreements, like the one that led to Lawal's transfer, serve as a reminder that cybercrimes are not confined to national borders and require a coordinated global response. While the case is still in its early stages, it raises important questions about the role of African countries in policing and prosecuting cybercriminals operating within and outside their borders. Cybersecurity infrastructure and capacity building in Africa. Nigeria has made significant strides in improving its cybersecurity infrastructure, with the establishment of the National Cybercrime Center aimed at addressing the growing cybercrime problem. The Nigerian government has invested millions of pounds in this state-of-the-art facility, which serves as a hub for investigating cybercrimes and enhancing law enforcement's ability to combat issues such as sextortion. This move is part of a broader effort to modernize Nigeria's approach to fighting online crimes and protect its citizens from becoming victims of cybercriminals. Despite these advancements, there is still much work to be done. Many African nations, including Nigeria, face challenges related to the capacity of law enforcement agencies to effectively tackle cybercrimes. Limited resources, insufficient training for officers, and the lack of standardized procedures for handling cybercrimes hinder the effectiveness of anti-cybercrime efforts across the continent. Furthermore, many African countries still face issues with corruption, which can undermine the enforcement of laws and the fair prosecution of offenders. To strengthen Africa's fight against cybercrimes such as sextortion, greater investments in capacity building, training, and technological resources are necessary. Governments should work with international partners to ensure that law enforcement agencies are equipped with the tools needed to track cybercriminals, prevent crimes before they happen, and provide support to victims. In addition, governments need to promote cybersecurity education and awareness among the public, especially in schools, to help young people understand the risks they face online and how to protect themselves. Looking ahead, the need for a comprehensive strategy. As sextortion continues to pose a threat to individuals, particularly vulnerable teenagers, a more comprehensive and unified approach to tackling the issue is essential. Governments, tech companies, law enforcement, and civil society organizations must collaborate to address this issue on multiple fronts. This includes strengthening legal frameworks, improving public awareness, enhancing the security of online platforms, and offering greater support to victims. The Nigerian case is just one of many that demonstrate the need for increased international collaboration in tackling cybercrimes. The extradition of Lawal is a positive step forward, but much remains to be done to ensure that perpetrators of sextortion are held accountable and that victims receive the justice and support they deserve. As African nations continue to grapple with the challenges of cybersecurity, it is essential for governments to not only invest in technology, but also to prioritize education, mental health support, and the creation of safe spaces for victims to come forward. The future of combating sextortion and other online crimes in Africa depends on a holistic approach that integrates all sectors of society in the fight against cybercrime. The role of technology in prevention and prosecution. Technology plays a double-edged sword role in the fight against sextortion. On one hand, it enables perpetrators to commit their crimes covertly and with far-reaching consequences. On the other hand, it also provides tools for law enforcement to investigate and prosecute such crimes effectively. The key to combating sextortion lies in using technology to both prevent criminal activity and support the identification of offenders. One of the most promising technological innovations in this regard is artificial intelligence, AI, which is increasingly being deployed to detect inappropriate content online. AI-powered algorithms can identify explicit images and videos, even when altered or disguised, and can help social media platforms and law enforcement agencies track the spread of illicit materials. These AI systems are particularly valuable in preventing sextortion because they can flag potential criminal behavior as it occurs, allowing for swift intervention before the situation escalates. In addition to AI, blockchain technology holds promises for protecting victims and ensuring the secure storage of evidence. By creating tamper-proof records, blockchain can help preserve the integrity of digital evidence that is often used in sextortion cases. This could be crucial in the prosecution process, especially in cases that involve cross-border crimes where evidence is at risk of being tampered with or lost. However, the use of technology must be balanced with privacy concerns. While it is crucial to monitor online spaces for signs of sextortion, this should not come at the cost of infringing on individuals' privacy rights. Striking a balance between privacy and security is a critical issue for policymakers and tech companies alike as they navigate the complexities of online regulation and data protection. International and local collaboration in fighting sextortion. The fight against sextortion cannot be won by individual countries acting alone. As seen in the Lawal case, the international legal framework for extradition and prosecution plays a significant role in holding offenders accountable across borders. International organizations, such as Interpol and the United Nations, can provide a platform for cross-border collaboration, enabling countries to share intelligence, pool resources, and coordinate efforts in combating cybercrimes like sextortion. At the local level, African countries must strengthen cooperation between government agencies, law enforcement, and private sector players, including telecommunications companies, social media platforms, and financial institutions. Cybercriminals often exploit weaknesses in the digital ecosystem, from the use of unsecured networks to the lack of security on online payment systems. By strengthening these areas, countries can reduce the opportunities available for criminals to exploit victims. Furthermore, countries should consider forming regional alliances to fight cybercrime more effectively. Organizations such as the African Union, AU, and the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, could play a pivotal role in coordinating regional responses to sextortion and other cybercrimes. Shared best practices, harmonized legal frameworks, and joint operations would enable African nations to pool their resources and expertise in the fight against digital exploitation. The need for victim-centered approaches. One of the most significant gaps in the current approach to sextortion is the lack of support systems for victims. While many laws and regulations focus on punishing the perpetrators, there is less emphasis on helping those who are affected by these crimes. Victims of sextortion often face long-lasting psychological and emotional trauma, which requires dedicated support services to help them recover and rebuild their lives. Victim-centered approaches should include confidential helplines, legal assistance, and counseling services that specialize in the aftermath of cybercrimes. These services should be accessible and widely promoted to ensure that victims feel safe coming forward to report incidents. Additionally, governments and organizations should work to reduce the stigma surrounding sextortion by educating the public about the nature of the crime and encouraging greater empathy for victims. In many African countries, where cultural taboos often make it difficult to discuss issues related to sexuality, the need for such support systems is even more pronounced. Victims in these environments may face additional barriers to seeking help, such as fear of social ostracism or family shame. Therefore, outreach and awareness campaigns should be tailored to local contexts to ensure that they resonate with diverse communities across the continent. A call for stronger education and prevention efforts. Prevention is arguably the most effective weapon in the fight against sextortion. Education plays a critical role in equipping young people with knowledge and tools to protect themselves online. Schools, universities, and community organizations should integrate cybersecurity and digital literacy into their curriculums, teaching young people how to identify and avoid potential threats. In addition to online safety education, there should be more focus on promoting healthy relationships and consent. By fostering a culture of respect and responsibility, young people can be taught to understand the dangers of sharing intimate content and the importance of respecting others' privacy. Social media platforms themselves can also play a role in promoting online safety by integrating educational tools, alerts, and clear reporting mechanisms for users who are targeted by sextortion schemes. Governments should also consider launching national awareness campaigns that highlight the consequences of sextortion and encourage individuals to report any suspicious behavior. Such campaigns can help create a sense of shared responsibility within society, where everyone plays a role in preventing and addressing the issue of online exploitation. Global case studies. Lessons from the US and Europe. The United States and Europe have made significant strides in addressing the issue of sextortion, both in terms of legal frameworks and prevention efforts. For instance, in the US, the FBI has a dedicated cybercrime unit that investigates cases of sextortion and other online crimes. Similarly, the UK's National Crime Agency has launched several initiatives aimed at tackling online exploitation, including the Stop Sextortion campaign, which educates young people about the dangers of sharing intimate images online. Both the US and Europe have also established legal frameworks that specifically address sextortion. In the US, the law criminalizes the act of extorting intimate images, with severe penalties for offenders. These laws have been instrumental in prosecuting sextortion cases, but they also serve as a model for other countries looking to strengthen their own legal systems. African countries, many of which are still in the process of developing comprehensive cybercrime legislation, can learn valuable lessons from these regions. By adopting similar legal frameworks and collaborating with international partners, African countries can enhance their ability to address sextortion effectively. Looking ahead, building a safer digital future. As the internet continues to evolve, so too will the tactics used by cybercriminals. It is crucial that African countries remain vigilant and adaptable, staying ahead of emerging trends in cybercrime. Governments, tech companies, and civil society must work together to create a safer digital environment for everyone, especially vulnerable individuals such as teenagers and young adults. By prioritizing education, strengthening legal frameworks, fostering international collaboration, and offering robust support systems for victims, we can take significant steps towards reducing the prevalence of sextortion in Africa and across the globe. The fight against sextortion is a long-term commitment, but with sustained effort, it is one that can be won. The role of community engagement in combating sextortion. One of the critical components that can enhance efforts to fight sextortion is the active involvement of communities in the fight against cybercrime. While governments and international agencies play vital roles in law enforcement and the establishment of preventive measures, the role of community engagement cannot be underestimated. Communities are often the first to recognize suspicious behavior, and individuals within those communities are in the best position to support victims, report crimes, and prevent further harm. Local organizations, especially those focused on youth advocacy and digital literacy, can serve as an essential bridge between vulnerable individuals and authorities. These grassroots organizations can be instrumental in providing education, raising awareness about online dangers, and offering psychological and emotional support to those affected by sextortion. By fostering a sense of collective responsibility, communities can help identify perpetrators and prevent the further spread of these harmful activities. In some African countries, where traditional values and family structures play a significant role, community support networks are often tight-knit, making it easier to share information and offer assistance. For instance, local leaders such as religious figures, teachers, and community organizers can become champions of online safety by promoting safe digital practices in their communities. By integrating discussions about sextortion into religious gatherings, local meetings, and school curricula, communities can contribute to a larger societal shift that prioritizes online safety and mutual respect. Moreover, engaging men and boys in the conversation about sextortion is also critical. Too often, the conversation about sextortion is framed primarily as an issue for women and girls, but men and boys can be just as susceptible to online exploitation. Awareness campaigns that involve male role models and influencers can challenge harmful gender stereotypes and encourage young men to take an active role in protecting themselves and others from sextortion. Challenges in Africa: internet access, technology, and awareness. While the rise of the internet and social media has provided African populations with new opportunities for economic, social, and educational growth, it has also presented significant challenges. With the growing penetration of mobile phones and internet connectivity, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa, the threat of online exploitation, including sextortion, has escalated. According to the International Telecommunication Union, ITU, Africa has experienced rapid growth in internet users, and a significant portion of the continent's population now has access to smartphones. While these developments are largely positive, they also expose individuals, especially youth, to a wide range of cybercrimes. However, access to technology is not uniform across all of Africa. Rural areas often experience slower internet speeds and limited access to smartphones, leaving many young people in these regions vulnerable to exploitation by more tech-savvy criminals operating in urban centers. This digital divide makes it difficult for marginalized populations to access vital educational resources on online safety, and it creates additional barriers to reporting crimes. In addition to the lack of access to technology in some areas, there is also a widespread lack of awareness about the risks associated with online activities. In many African countries, the concept of digital literacy is still in its infancy, and many individuals, especially older generations, are unfamiliar with the dangers of sextortion. This lack of awareness contributes to the vulnerability of young people, who may not fully understand the potential consequences of sharing intimate images or engaging in risky online behavior. To address this gap, governments and non-governmental organizations, NGOs, must invest in programs that promote digital literacy and online safety. These initiatives should be tailored to local contexts, considering cultural sensitivities and community dynamics. Educational campaigns should not only focus on the risks of sextortion, but also teach practical strategies for protecting personal information online, setting strong passwords, and recognizing warning signs of online manipulation. The need for specialized legal frameworks in Africa. As sextortion becomes a more prominent issue in many African countries, there is a growing need for specialized legal frameworks to address the crime more effectively. While many African nations have enacted general cybercrime laws, these laws often lack specific provisions related to sextortion. In order to tackle the problem head-on, countries need to introduce legislation that specifically criminalizes sextortion, outlines clear penalties for perpetrators, and provides legal remedies for victims. The establishment of cybercrime units within law enforcement agencies is also essential. These units should be equipped with the tools and expertise to investigate sextortion cases, track perpetrators across digital platforms, and protect the privacy of victims during the investigation and prosecution stages. Training law enforcement officials to handle cybercrime cases sensitively and professionally will help ensure that victims are treated with dignity and respect throughout the legal process. Additionally, countries need to harmonize their cybercrime laws to facilitate cross-border cooperation in the investigation and prosecution of sextortion cases. This is especially crucial in Africa, where perpetrators may operate from one country and target victims in another. The African Union's Convention on Cybersecurity and Personal Data Protection, which was adopted in 2014, serves as a step toward harmonizing cybercrime laws across the continent. However, much work remains to be done in terms of enforcing these laws and ensuring that they are up to date with the evolving nature of cybercrime. The impact of international organizations and NGOs. International organizations, including the United Nations, the World Economic Forum, and NGOs, have a critical role to play in the fight against sextortion. These organizations can provide technical assistance, share best practices, and help African governments develop effective strategies for combating online exploitation. International collaboration is especially important when it comes to cross-border crimes, as perpetrators often target victims in different countries. NGOs focused on women's rights, children's rights, and digital safety also play a vital role in raising awareness and advocating for policy changes. Organizations such as the Global Partnership to End Violence Against Children, the International Telecommunication Union, ITU, and the Cyber Civil Rights Initiative are at the forefront of efforts to combat online exploitation and sextortion globally. These organizations not only provide resources for victims, but also contribute to the development of international norms and guidelines for addressing digital violence. Furthermore, these NGOs can serve as a bridge between victims and local authorities, especially in cases where individuals feel uncomfortable reporting sextortion to the police due to fear of stigma or retaliation. Through helplines, counseling, and legal support, NGOs offer victims a safe space to come forward and seek assistance. These organizations also help to provide ongoing advocacy for the creation of stronger victim protection measures and support systems. A collaborative future, strengthening efforts to combat sextortion. As sextortion continues to pose a significant threat to vulnerable individuals around the world, a concerted multi-sector approach is essential to tackling the issue. Governments, law enforcement, tech companies, and civil society must work together to address the root causes of sextortion and create a safer digital environment for all users. By strengthening laws, improving education, enhancing technological tools, and fostering international cooperation, we can make significant strides in reducing the prevalence of this crime. Ultimately, the key to eradicating sextortion lies in collaboration at all levels, of national and international. This fight will require ongoing investment, innovation, and a commitment to protecting those who are most vulnerable to digital exploitation. Only through a unified and proactive response can we ensure that the digital world remains a safe space for everyone. The role of victim advocacy and support networks. One of the most critical yet often overlooked aspects of combating sextortion is the support provided to victims. Victim advocacy and support networks play an essential role in helping those affected by this crime recover and regain control of their lives. Many victims of sextortion experience long-lasting psychological trauma, including depression, anxiety, and a sense of hopelessness. The emotional toll can be overwhelming, especially when the abuse results in public exposure, social ostracism, or even suicide. Victim support programs are crucial for providing a safe space where survivors can report their experiences without fear of being blamed or stigmatized. These programs offer emotional counseling, legal advice, and financial assistance for victims seeking justice or protection. They also help victims navigate the complex legal system, which may be overwhelming for someone already suffering from trauma. In many African countries where discussing issues like sexual exploitation or intimate photos may carry a social stigma, these support networks must be culturally sensitive and confidential. Religious and community leaders, as well as teachers and counselors, can be key partners in helping victims come forward and access the support they need. It is essential that these networks are accessible to young people who are most at risk of sextortion, as well as their families, who may struggle to understand the impact of online exploitation. Creating safe online spaces for vulnerable groups. In the age of digital communication, vulnerable groups such as children, teenagers, and young adults are the most susceptible to sextortion. It is therefore imperative to create safe online spaces where these individuals can interact and learn without fear of exploitation. This requires a collective effort between governments, tech companies, and educators to ensure that young people have the tools they need to protect themselves online. One important initiative could involve the implementation of stronger age verification systems on social media platforms to ensure that minors are not exposed to predators. Social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok have a responsibility to monitor content more effectively and take immediate action when sextortion activities are detected. This includes preventing offenders from using fake profiles or impersonating minors to deceive their victims. Additionally, tech companies can introduce features such as automatic photo blurring or a report harassment button specifically for sextortion-related content, which would streamline the reporting process and ensure that suspicious activities are flagged as soon as they occur. These features should be promoted heavily through in-app tutorials and awareness campaigns to ensure that users understand how to use them effectively. Building digital literacy and online safety education programs. Digital literacy is essential for navigating the complexities of the online world. By promoting digital literacy, particularly in schools, governments, and organizations, can equip young people with the knowledge and tools they need to protect themselves from online exploitation, including sextortion. Educational curricula should cover topics such as understanding consent, recognizing digital manipulation, maintaining privacy, and responding to online harassment. Schools and universities are ideal settings to implement comprehensive digital safety programs, especially when combined with broader education on emotional intelligence, self-esteem, and personal boundaries. These programs can teach young people to think critically about the content they share online and to be aware of the risks involved in sharing intimate images or engaging in online relationships with strangers. Parents and caregivers also play a crucial role in educating children about the risks of sextortion. With many parents and guardians unaware of the specific dangers that children face online, there is a significant need for initiatives that help parents understand the digital environment in which their children operate. By providing workshops, resources, and tools to parents, governments and NGOs can help them better understand how to protect their children from online exploitation. Strengthening international legal frameworks for cybercrimes. The complexity of sextortion, particularly when it involves offenders operating across borders, calls for the strengthening of international legal frameworks for cybercrimes. While some African countries have begun to enact cybercrime laws, there is still a significant gap in enforcing these laws, particularly when the offenders are in different countries. One way forward is for African countries to adopt a uniform legal framework that addresses cybercrimes, including sextortion. This could be modeled after the African Union's Convention on Cybersecurity and Personal Data Protection, which encourages member states to harmonize their laws and take collective action against cybercrime. The establishment of cybercrime units within law enforcement agencies, as well as the training of police officers in digital forensics, will be critical in making sure these laws are effectively enforced. International cooperation will also be key in tackling cross-border sextortion cases. Countries should be encouraged to sign and adhere to international treaties that enable the exchange of information and facilitate the extradition of offenders. For instance, Interpol's Cybercrime Unit and other international bodies can help African nations build stronger cybercrime investigations and prosecution capabilities by providing expertise, training, and access to international databases of known cybercriminals. A comprehensive approach to addressing the root causes of sextortion. In addition to focusing on the legal and technological aspects of combating sextortion, it is important to address the root causes of the crime. Sextortion does not occur in a vacuum. It is often a manifestation of deeper societal issues such as inequality, lack of education, and social exploitation. In many cases, offenders use sextortion to assert power and control over their victims, often targeting those who are vulnerable or marginalized. To address these underlying issues, governments and NGOs must invest in initiatives that promote gender equality, social justice, and access to education. This includes programs that challenge harmful stereotypes and behaviors that contribute to online abuse. Public campaigns can be used to address the culture of misogyny and sexism that often underpins sextortion, while also promoting healthier attitudes toward intimacy and consent. A multi-pronged approach is essential. The fight against sextortion in Africa and across the world requires a multi-pronged approach that addresses the legal, technological, educational, and social dimensions of the issue. Governments, law enforcement, tech companies, NGOs, and community leaders all have vital roles to play in this effort. By working together, these stakeholders can create a safer digital environment for everyone and reduce the prevalence of sextortion, which continues to devastate lives across the globe. The increasing use of technology offers both a challenge and an opportunity in the fight against sextortion. By leveraging the power of digital tools, enhancing international cooperation, and prioritizing the needs of victims, societies can make significant strides toward eliminating this form of online abuse. Moving forward, we must remain committed to building a future where the internet is a safe, respectful, and empowering space for all. The role of technology companies in prevention. As major players in the digital world, technology companies such as Meta, Google, Twitter, and others have a pivotal role to play in preventing sextortion and other forms of cybercrime. These companies operate the platforms through which most sextortion crimes occur, and they possess the technological capabilities to implement preventive measures. Social media platforms can deploy more advanced algorithms to detect suspicious behavior, such as users who create multiple fake profiles, message miners or vulnerable individuals, or attempt to coerce others into sharing intimate images. These tools should be used not just for flagging offensive content, but also for detecting predatory behavior patterns before they escalate into a crime. In addition to content monitoring, these platforms should also implement robust verification processes to make it more difficult for cybercriminals to operate anonymously. Although some platforms already require email or phone number verification, further steps such as biometric verification or two-factor authentication could add additional layers of security, reducing the chances of offenders creating multiple fraudulent accounts to perpetrate sextortion schemes. Furthermore, social media companies should collaborate closely with law enforcement agencies to ensure that when a sextortion case is identified, the perpetrators can be quickly apprehended. This collaboration can involve sharing user data when appropriate with proper legal consent and cooperating on investigations that span across multiple jurisdictions. Expanding access to legal and psychological support for victims. As mentioned, one of the key components in addressing the issue of sextortion is providing adequate support to victims. Many victims suffer from long-term emotional and psychological damage, and access to mental health support is critical for their recovery. Governments and non-governmental organizations need to prioritize funding and access to counseling services specifically designed to help survivors of online exploitation. While there is a growing awareness of the importance of mental health services globally, many African nations still face challenges in providing accessible, affordable, and culturally sensitive mental health care. This is especially true in rural areas, where there may be a lack of trained professionals and stigmatization of mental health issues. Psychological support for sextortion victims should be easily accessible through hotlines, online counseling services, and mobile health apps. These services should be private and offer anonymity, ensuring that victims feel safe in coming forward without fear of exposure or ridicule. Additionally, these services should offer specialized care, including trauma-informed therapy, support groups, and legal guidance for victims seeking justice. Legal support for victims is equally essential. Many individuals who have been extorted may not know how to navigate the legal system or feel intimidated by the complexity of cybercrime laws. In cases where sextortion is a cross-border crime, victims may also face jurisdictional challenges in seeking justice. Legal aid organizations can play a vital role in guiding victims through the legal process, ensuring that they understand their rights and can pursue justice. Creating a global framework for cooperation. The issue of sextortion is not confined to any one country or region, making international cooperation crucial in tackling the crime. Cybercriminals often operate across borders, targeting victims in multiple countries. As a result, effective prevention and prosecution require coordinated efforts at the global level. International cooperation can be facilitated through the creation of global frameworks and treaties that set standards for cybercrime laws and ensure consistency in the way sextortion cases are handled. The United Nations, through its Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, and organizations such as Interpol, can act as platforms for cooperation, helping to coordinate cross-border investigations and providing technical assistance to law enforcement agencies. The Global Forum on Cybersecurity and other international events provide an opportunity for countries to share knowledge and best practices in combating online exploitation. By building stronger relationships between countries and harmonizing cybercrime laws, nations can create a united front against sextortion and other forms of cybercrime. Addressing the root causes of sextortion in African contexts. While addressing the immediate threat of sextortion is essential, it is equally important to tackle the root causes that contribute to the prevalence of this crime in certain regions, particularly in Africa. Socioeconomic factors such as poverty, lack of education, and unemployment often push individuals into becoming perpetrators of crimes like sextortion. In some cases, offenders view sextortion as a way to make money or gain power, particularly when they lack access to legitimate economic opportunities. To address these issues, African governments and international organizations should focus on creating economic opportunities and improving access to education, especially in rural areas. By investing in education and vocational training programs, young people can acquire the skills needed to succeed in the digital economy, reducing the appeal of illegal activities. Additionally, There should be efforts to promote gender equality and challenge the cultural norms that perpetuate the objectification of women and girls. In many African societies, women are disproportionately targeted by sextortion, which reflects broader issues of gender inequality and the sexualization of women. Campaigns that focus on respect, consent, and mutual dignity in relationships can help change attitudes and reduce the likelihood of individuals becoming either victims or perpetrators of sextortion. Strengthening Africa's cybersecurity capacity. Africa is witnessing rapid advancements in internet connectivity, mobile technology, and digital infrastructure, but with these advancements come new vulnerabilities. Many African countries have struggled to build adequate cybersecurity frameworks, and cybercriminals often exploit these weaknesses to target individuals and organizations. To protect citizens from sextortion and other cybercrimes, African governments must invest in building their cybersecurity infrastructure. This includes strengthening the capacity of law enforcement agencies to investigate and prosecute cybercrimes, creating public-private partnerships to enhance cyber defenses, and building the technical expertise needed to combat online threats. Investment in cybersecurity training programs for law enforcement officers, as well as the establishment of specialized cybercrime units, will improve the region's ability to respond to sextortion cases. Furthermore, governments should collaborate with regional organizations, such as the African Union, to develop a continent-wide cybersecurity strategy that aligns with global best practices. Developing a holistic approach to online safety. Finally, tackling sextortion requires a holistic approach that goes beyond legal and technological measures. The key to combating this crime lies in the prevention of future exploitation, which can only be achieved through a comprehensive strategy that encompasses education, awareness, legal reform, victim support, and international cooperation. From a legal standpoint, African countries need to adopt stronger laws against cybercrimes, particularly sextortion, and ensure that perpetrators are held accountable. At the same time, educating young people about online safety, consent, and the risk of sharing personal information is essential in reducing the number of victims. Digital literacy campaigns, along with training for parents, teachers, and community leaders, will help create a more informed society that is better equipped to identify and prevent sextortion. Simultaneously, online platforms must take greater responsibility in safeguarding their users. Tech companies need to build stronger defenses against predators and improve their ability to detect and respond to sextortion schemes in real time. Additionally, fostering partnerships between tech companies, governments, and NGOs will allow for a more coordinated approach to combating online exploitation. As the digital landscape continues to evolve, so must our efforts to create safer online spaces. Only through sustained collaborative action can we hope to curb the rise of sextortion and protect individuals from its devastating effects. The importance of youth empowerment and digital resilience. Another vital component in tackling sextortion is empowering young people to become digitally resilient. With the increasing use of smartphones and social media, young people are often the first to encounter digital threats like sextortion. As digital natives, they are more likely to be targeted by predators and manipulated online. Therefore, equipping youth with the skills and knowledge to navigate the online world safely is crucial for long-term prevention. Youth empowerment programs should go beyond simply teaching technical skills. They must also focus on fostering digital resilience. These programs can teach young people how to critically evaluate the content they encounter online, the importance of maintaining privacy, and how to spot red flags of online manipulation. By instilling a sense of digital responsibility and self-awareness, youth will be better prepared to defend themselves against potential threats. Furthermore, incorporating digital ethics and empathy into educational curricula can help young people understand the consequences of online exploitation and the importance of respect in online interactions. Teaching students about responsible social media use, as well as the concept of consent, will help reduce the risks associated with sextortion. By promoting a culture of respect and care online, young people can become proactive agents of change, contributing to a safer digital environment for everyone. The role of governments in strengthening cybercrime legislation. Governments play a central role in shaping the legal landscape surrounding cybercrimes, including sextortion. While many African countries have cybercrime laws in place, these laws often lack the specificity and scope needed to address the complexities of modern digital exploitation. There is a need for governments to review and update their cybercrime legislation to include provisions that specifically address sextortion, with clear penalties for offenders. African governments should work with international partners to adopt best practices in drafting cybercrime laws. These laws should cover not only the act of sextortion itself, but also related crimes such as the distribution of intimate images without consent and online blackmail. The laws should also consider the mental, emotional, and financial harm caused to victims, ensuring that they are given appropriate legal recourse. Furthermore, as the Internet continues to evolve, so too must the laws that govern it. The introduction of new technologies such as artificial intelligence, blockchain, and deepfakes has opened new avenues for perpetrators to exploit their victims. Governments must stay ahead of these trends by creating flexible legal frameworks that can adapt to new digital threats. This requires ongoing collaboration with tech companies, legal experts, and law enforcement to ensure that laws remain effective in the face of rapidly advancing technology. Building trust between citizens and law enforcement. One of the challenges in tackling sextortion, especially in many African countries, is the lack of trust between citizens and law enforcement agencies. Victims of sextortion may be reluctant to report the crime due to fear of being blamed, stigmatized, or not taken seriously by authorities. This is particularly true in regions where cybercrimes are still relatively new, and many law enforcement officers may not have the training or expertise to deal with such cases. To address this, law enforcement agencies must work to build trust with the public. This involves improving the transparency and responsiveness of police forces and creating specialized units that are trained in handling cybercrimes and sensitive cases like sextortion. Officers should be trained to approach victims with empathy and understanding, ensuring that they feel safe and supported throughout the reporting process. Community outreach programs can also play an important role in strengthening the relationship between citizens and the police. These programs can educate the public about the legal options available to them if they are victims of sextortion and provide a platform for individuals to voice concerns about online safety. By fostering a sense of community involvement and cooperation, law enforcement can build a stronger, more effective network for combating cybercrimes. Global collaboration and the role of international organizations. While the responsibility for addressing sextortion lies primarily with national governments, international organizations play a significant role in promoting global collaboration. Given that cybercrimes often involve cross-border perpetrators and victims, international cooperation is essential for effectively tackling sextortion. Organizations like Interpol, the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, and the Global Forum on Cybersecurity are working to create frameworks for international cooperation on cybercrime. These platforms enable law enforcement agencies from different countries to share information, collaborate on investigations, and coordinate efforts to bring offenders to justice. At the same time, global organizations can provide technical assistance to countries that lack the resources or expertise to address sextortion effectively. This can include training law enforcement officials, offering digital forensics tools, and developing national strategies for cybercrime prevention. By strengthening international partnerships, the global community can create a unified front against online exploitation. The ongoing discussions at the UN level on cybersecurity and human rights highlight the growing recognition of digital crimes as a threat to global security and human dignity. As sextortion continues to gain attention worldwide, the importance of international norms and agreements to address the issue will only increase. African countries must continue to engage with international organizations to ensure that they are not left behind in the fight against cybercrime. Promoting ethical technology development. While much of the focus on combating sextortion is placed on preventing and responding to crime, there is also a need to address the development of ethical technology. Many of the tools that are used to perpetrate sextortion, such as fake profiles, deepfake videos, and encrypted messaging apps, are created by tech developers who may not always consider the potential harms of their creations. To combat this, technology companies must take responsibility for the ethical implications of their products. Developers need to be more proactive in creating technology that prioritizes user safety and reduces the risk of online abuse. This includes building features that prevent the creation of fake identities, implementing stronger privacy settings, and ensuring that users are aware of the risks associated with online interactions. Furthermore, there should be more investment in developing technology that can proactively detect harmful content and predatory behavior online. By incorporating artificial intelligence and machine learning, tech companies can build systems that identify and block inappropriate content before it reaches vulnerable individuals. Ethical technology development is not just about preventing harm, but also about promoting positive digital experiences. By fostering an environment that values privacy, consent, and respect, technology companies can contribute to a safer online ecosystem where users feel empowered and protected. Fostering digital equality across Africa. As the internet continues to expand across Africa, there is a growing need to ensure that all people have equal access to digital resources and the tools needed to protect themselves online. While urban areas in Africa often have better access to the internet, rural regions may still face significant challenges, including limited access to technology, low levels of digital literacy, and inadequate infrastructure. To combat these inequalities, governments, international organizations, and tech companies must invest in expanding internet access and digital education in underserved areas. This includes providing affordable internet access to remote communities, establishing digital literacy programs for all ages, and creating infrastructure that allows young people in these regions to engage in online education and career opportunities. By promoting digital equality, African nations can ensure that all citizens can benefit from the digital economy while also protecting them from online threats like sextortion. Empowering individuals with the knowledge and resources to navigate the digital world safely will help create a more secure and inclusive online environment for everyone. Moving forward, a commitment to change. The growing prevalence of sextortion is a wake-up call for both individuals and governments across the globe. While significant progress has been made in addressing the issue, much work remains to be done. From strengthening laws and international cooperation to promoting digital literacy and building support systems for victims, the fight against sextortion requires a concerted and sustained effort at all levels of society. By working together, stakeholders can create a safer digital environment where victims are supported, perpetrators are held accountable, and the online world becomes a space for positive, respectful interactions. As technology continues to evolve, so too must our commitment to creating an online world that is safe, inclusive, and free from exploitation. The role of public awareness campaigns. Public awareness campaigns are essential to educating the wider population about the dangers of sextortion and how to protect themselves from becoming victims. These campaigns can take many forms, including television and radio ads, social media awareness programs, and community workshops. The goal is to ensure that people, especially vulnerable populations like teenagers and young adults, understand the risks they face online and know how to act if they find themselves targeted. Such campaigns must be culturally relevant and sensitive to the specific challenges faced by different communities. In many African countries, for instance, digital literacy levels may vary widely depending on access to technology, education, and internet resources. As such, campaigns should be tailored to the local context, ensuring that they address the specific needs and concerns of different regions. For example, rural communities may benefit from more face-to-face engagement, such as community-based workshops, while urban areas may be more suited to social media campaigns and digital advertisements. Additionally, it is important that these campaigns are not only aimed at potential victims, but also at the wider community, including parents, teachers, and community leaders, to equip them with the knowledge and resources to help prevent and respond to sextortion. In many cases, people are unaware that sextortion exists or that it could happen to them. Creating widespread awareness about the signs of sextortion, how to protect personal information online, and what steps to take if one becomes a victim can go a long way in reducing the incidence of these crimes. These campaigns should also promote a message of empathy and support for victims, helping to reduce the shame and stigma that often prevent them from coming forward. The need for corporate responsibility in the tech industry. In the fight against sextortion, the tech industry has a significant role to play. While many tech companies have introduced some measures to combat online exploitation, the reality is that much more needs to be done. Large tech firms like Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, which are frequently used to perpetrate sextortion schemes, should implement more robust tools to detect and prevent such activities. This includes enhanced filtering systems, the automatic removal of harmful content, and AI-driven solutions that can identify suspicious behaviors, such as threats of blackmail or the coercion of intimate photos. Additionally, these companies must work to ensure that their platforms provide users with clear, easy-to-follow instructions on how to report sextortion and seek help. As part of their corporate responsibility, tech companies should collaborate with governments, NGOs, and other stakeholders to develop shared best practices for addressing online exploitation. One important step in this process is to ensure that tech platforms are proactive rather than reactive. Often, the issue of sextortion is only addressed after a victim has already been harmed. Tech companies must work to prevent harm in the first place by implementing safeguards that identify and flag predatory behaviors before they escalate. Moreover, companies should be transparent about how they handle cases of sextortion, including the data they collect, how they cooperate with law enforcement, and the actions they take to prevent such crimes. This level of transparency builds trust with users and shows a commitment to online safety. Addressing digital identity and privacy concerns. A significant aspect of the conversation about sextortion is digital identity and privacy. With the explosion of online platforms and digital interactions, people are increasingly sharing personal details and images without fully understanding the risks involved. This lack of understanding can make individuals more vulnerable to sextortion, as criminals exploit personal information to manipulate and threaten victims. Governments and tech companies must prioritize protecting digital privacy and promoting practices that allow individuals to control their own information. Strict regulations on data collection, storage, and sharing are necessary to prevent unauthorized access to sensitive data that could later be used for extortion. For example, privacy laws that limit the amount of personal information companies can collect and how long they can store it could significantly reduce the chances of data breaches, which could then lead to sextortion. Additionally, digital literacy programs should teach individuals how to manage their online identities safely. This includes understanding the importance of strong passwords, being cautious about sharing personal details online, and using privacy settings to control who can access their information. For vulnerable groups such as children and young adults, this education is particularly important, as they may be more trusting and less aware of the risks of oversharing on social media. The psychological and social impact on victims. The psychological and social consequences of sextortion are severe and far-reaching. Victims often experience profound emotional trauma, which can manifest in a variety of ways, including anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. The fear of having intimate images shared publicly can lead to a sense of helplessness and shame, often causing victims to withdraw from social circles and seek isolation. In many cases, victims of sextortion may also face social stigmatization, especially in communities where sexual exploitation is viewed as a moral failing rather than a criminal act. This can be especially damaging in societies with strong cultural taboos around sexuality, such as some African countries, where the stigma of sexual abuse or exploitation can be even more pronounced. The emotional toll of sextortion can be particularly devastating for young people who may lack the coping mechanisms to deal with the abuse. Victims may struggle with issues such as self-esteem, body image, and a sense of personal safety, all of which can hinder their ability to lead healthy, fulfilling lives. Addressing the psychological impact of sextortion is just as important as preventing the crime itself. Mental health services must be made widely available to victims, and these services should be tailored to meet the unique needs of individuals who have been affected by online exploitation. Counseling and therapy programs that specialize in trauma recovery can help victims heal and regain control over their lives. Creating safe spaces for dialogue and support. One of the most effective ways to reduce the impact of sextortion is to create safe spaces for dialogue and support. Victims of sextortion often suffer in silence, afraid to speak out because of fear of being blamed or shamed. By creating safe, non-judgmental environments, whether online or in person, where individuals can share their experiences and receive guidance, we can help break the silence surrounding this crime. Support groups and community-based organizations can be instrumental in providing these safe spaces. These organizations can offer a platform for victims to connect with others who have gone through similar experiences and share coping strategies. It is also important that these organizations work closely with law enforcement, mental health professionals, and legal advisors to ensure that victims are not only supported, but also have access to the resources they need to seek justice. In many cases, victims may feel empowered to speak out when they see that others have come forward and received help. By normalizing the conversation around sextortion, we can begin to remove the stigma and make it easier for people to seek help when needed. The importance of a holistic approach. Ultimately, combating sextortion requires a holistic approach that involves all sectors of society: governments, tech companies, law enforcement, civil society organizations, and individuals must all work together to address this complex issue. By focusing on prevention, support, legal reform, education, and international collaboration, we can build a safer digital environment for all. This multifaceted approach is essential not only for addressing the immediate threats of sextortion, but also for creating a sustainable framework to protect future generations. It requires a long-term commitment from all stakeholders to ensure that the online world is a safe, secure, and respectful space for everyone, free from the threat of exploitation and harm. As we continue to advance in the digital age, it is crucial that we remain vigilant and proactive in our efforts to combat online exploitation. The fight against sextortion is not just about protecting individuals from immediate harm, but about creating a culture of digital responsibility, respect, and empathy that will shape the future of the internet for generations to come. Integrating sextortion. Prevention into national education systems. In many African countries, education is the cornerstone of social change, and integrating sextortion prevention into national education systems is essential to addressing the issue at its roots. By teaching students about online safety and consent from an early age, we can equip the next generation with the skills to navigate digital spaces responsibly. These lessons should go beyond simply raising awareness about the risks of sextortion. They should also empower students to take proactive steps to protect themselves and others online, including topics such as digital footprints, online harassment, privacy settings, and the consequences of sextortion in school curricula can help foster a more informed and resilient generation. Additionally, students should be taught how to spot manipulation tactics used by perpetrators, how to safeguard their personal information, and the importance of respecting others' boundaries online. Importantly, the educational system should also provide avenues for reporting concerns, whether anonymously or openly, and ensure that students feel supported when they disclose experiences of online exploitation. Safe reporting mechanisms are critical for students to feel comfortable coming forward if they or their peers are affected by sextortion or any other form of digital abuse. By including sextortion prevention as part of digital literacy education, schools can help create an environment where young people feel confident in their ability to protect themselves and others in the online world. This knowledge will not only reduce the incidence of sextortion, but also foster a culture of responsibility and respect in the digital realm. Incorporating media and influencers in awareness campaigns. In today's digital age, social media influencers, celebrities, and content creators have enormous reach and influence, especially among younger audiences. As such, they can play an important role in awareness campaigns and the fight against sextortion. Influencers who are already trusted by their followers can help amplify messages about online safety and educate their audiences on the dangers of sextortion, as well as provide guidance on how to avoid becoming a victim. These individuals can use their platforms to speak about the importance of digital consent, the risks associated with sharing intimate content online, and how to recognize and report suspicious online behavior. Given their widespread reach, influencers can educate millions of people in a short period, making them invaluable allies in the fight against sextortion. Moreover, collaboration between influencers and organizations that specialize in online safety can create even more impactful campaigns. Through live broadcasts, videos, and social media posts, these campaigns can demystify the issue of sextortion, reduce the stigma surrounding it, and encourage victims to come forward for help. Using a celebrity's voice can help break down barriers and bring the conversation about sextortion into the mainstream, encouraging others to act. The importance of multi-stakeholder collaborations. As the issue of sextortion grows, no single organization or entity can tackle the problem alone. Governments, law enforcement, tech companies, NGOs, community groups, and educational institutions must work together to create a comprehensive and effective response. Multi-stakeholder collaborations are essential for developing coordinated strategies that tackle the various aspects of sextortion, from prevention and awareness to prosecution and victim support. For example, governments can collaborate with tech companies to improve reporting tools and security features, while NGOs can partner with law enforcement to provide victim services and legal support. Similarly, educational institutions can join forces with tech companies and NGOs to develop digital literacy curricula that teach students about online risks and how to protect themselves. This approach ensures that each stakeholder brings their expertise and resources to the table, creating a more robust and unified effort to combat sextortion. Additionally, cross-border collaboration is critical, especially in cases where offenders target victims across national borders. By working together at the regional and international levels, countries can share information, collaborate on investigations, and ensure that perpetrators are brought to justice. Regional organizations like the African Union, AU, and Interpol are essential in fostering cooperation between African nations and promoting the adoption of unified cybercrime laws and standards. The growing need for specialized training for law enforcement. One of the key factors in addressing sextortion is the ability of law enforcement to identify, investigate, and prosecute perpetrators effectively. However, many African law enforcement agencies lack specialized training and resources to handle cybercrimes, including sextortion. As a result, offenders often operate with impunity, knowing that the chances of getting caught are slim. To address this gap, there is a need to invest in specialized training for law enforcement officers, particularly in the areas of digital forensics, cybercrime investigation, and victim support. Officers should be trained to recognize the signs of sextortion, understand the psychological impact on victims, and respond in a sensitive and professional manner. Additionally, law enforcement agencies should be equipped with the necessary tools and technologies to track cybercriminals, including those operating across borders. Regional and international partnerships can play a key role in providing training and resources to law enforcement agencies in Africa. By collaborating with global organizations such as Interpol and the United Nations, African countries can access the expertise and tools they need to effectively combat sextortion and other forms of online exploitation. Furthermore, these partnerships can facilitate information sharing and joint investigations, improving the ability to apprehend perpetrators who operate in multiple jurisdictions. The role of community-based organizations. Community-based organizations, CBOs, are an important part of the response to sextortion, particularly in regions where formal systems of support may be lacking. These organizations are often the first point of contact for victims, providing crucial support services such as counseling, legal advice, and referral services. CBOs also have the trust of local communities, making them well-positioned to raise awareness about the dangers of sextortion and provide education about online safety. In many African countries where digital literacy is still emerging, and there may be resistance to discussing sensitive issues like sextortion, CBOs can play a role in bridging the gap between victims and formal institutions. They can help victims navigate the legal system, connect them with mental health resources, and ensure that their voices are heard in the fight against online exploitation. Additionally, CBOs often engage in community mobilization efforts, organizing awareness campaigns and workshops to educate the public about the risks of sextortion and how to protect themselves. These grassroots organizations are essential for creating a network of support that extends into communities and provides individuals with the resources they need to stay safe. They can also serve as advocates for policy change, working with governments and international bodies to push for stronger laws and more effective responses to cybercrime. Moving forward with collective action. As the digital landscape continues to evolve, so too will the tactics used by perpetrators of sextortion. However, with continued collective action from governments, law enforcement, tech companies, NGOs, educational institutions, and the public, we can begin to reverse the trend of online exploitation. A multifaceted approach, focused on prevention, victim support, education, legal reform, and international cooperation, is key to addressing sextortion at both the individual and systemic levels. While much progress has been made in raising awareness and developing legal frameworks to combat sextortion, there is still much work to be done. The fight against sextortion is ongoing, and it requires sustained commitment from all sectors of society. By continuing to collaborate, innovate, and educate, we can build a digital environment where safety, respect, and accountability prevail, and where individuals are empowered to protect themselves and others from harm. Strengthening the role of victims in the fight against sextortion. One of the most crucial aspects of successfully combating sextortion is ensuring that victims not only receive adequate support, but also have a voice in shaping the policies and initiatives that affect them. Victims should not just be seen as passive recipients of help, but as active participants in efforts to prevent sextortion and support those who have been impacted by it. By empowering victims to share their experiences, provide feedback on current support systems, and participate in advocacy, we can create a more victim-centered approach to combating sextortion. Victim participation in advocacy can take many forms, from sharing personal stories through media platforms and campaigns, to participating in consultations that influence policy changes. These voices are invaluable in raising awareness of the emotional, psychological, and social toll of sextortion. Furthermore, when victims share their experiences, it helps reduce the stigma that surrounds sextortion and encourages others to seek help when needed. Involving victims in the design of support services ensures that the systems in place address their specific needs. This can include trauma-informed counseling, access to mental health services, legal aid, and practical assistance, such as helping victims regain control over their digital lives. Victims' perspectives can also help identify gaps in current legal frameworks and provide insights into how laws can be more effective in preventing sextortion or prosecuting perpetrators. As we work to improve support systems for victims, it's essential to provide safe, confidential spaces for these voices to be heard. This could include creating anonymous reporting channels, victim advocacy groups, and online forums where survivors can offer their perspectives and help shape the future of sextortion prevention. Leveraging technology for prevention and protection. In the ongoing battle against sextortion, technology plays a critical role, not only as a tool for perpetrators but also as a means of prevention and protection. Advances in AI, machine learning, and data analysis can provide law enforcement agencies and tech companies with powerful tools to detect and prevent sextortion activities before they escalate. AI can be employed to monitor online behavior and flag suspicious accounts or messages that suggest a potential for sextortion. For instance, algorithms can track patterns of communication that involve coercion, threats, or demands for money or intimate images, enabling authorities to intervene earlier. Additionally, tech companies can introduce proactive features to help users protect themselves from sextortion. These features could include enhanced privacy controls, automated alerts for suspicious behavior, and a one-click reporting tool for users to quickly report instances of sextortion. For example, some platforms already offer a panic button or report harassment button, but these features should be refined and made more prominent for easier access. Users should be able to report not just explicit content, but also coercive or manipulative behaviors that are central to sextortion. The rise of blockchain technology also offers a potential solution for protecting intimate content. By ensuring that digital media, such as images and videos, are encrypted and stored in secure, immutable formats, blockchain can create a level of control for individuals over their personal data. This could help prevent perpetrators from gaining unauthorized access to or distributing sensitive content, while simultaneously providing victims with a secure means of proving ownership and control over their digital content. However, the application of these technologies must be carefully balanced with privacy considerations. As with any system that monitors user behavior, privacy concerns need to be addressed. Policies must ensure that the monitoring systems used to detect sextortion do not violate users' rights or expose sensitive data to unauthorized parties. Transparency in how these technologies are used will be essential in building trust among users and ensuring that these tools are used ethically. Legal reforms to address new forms of sextortion. The landscape of sextortion is continually evolving, with new forms of exploitation emerging as technology advances. One of the most pressing issues in the fight against sextortion is the need for legal reforms that reflect these changes. Traditional laws governing harassment and extortion may not be well suited to address the specific dynamics of online exploitation, including sextortion. For example, the rapid rise of deepfake technology, which allows for the creation of hyper-realistic fabricated videos, poses a new challenge in the context of sextortion. Perpetrators can now create fake videos using victims' faces or likenesses, making it even more difficult to distinguish between real and manipulated content. Existing legal frameworks may struggle to keep up with these technological developments, leaving victims without clear legal recourse. To address these challenges, lawmakers should focus on updating existing laws and introducing new regulations that specifically address the latest forms of sextortion, such as deepfake pornography and the non-consensual sharing of intimate content. These laws should criminalize the creation and distribution of fake sexual content, as well as the use of manipulation or coercion to extort money or favors from victims. Legal reform should also emphasize the need for swift responses to online crimes, with provisions for rapidly removing harmful content and prosecuting perpetrators. Equally important is ensuring that there is a legal framework that addresses the rights of victims in digital spaces. Laws should recognize the potential for emotional distress and long-term psychological harm caused by sextortion, and offer protection to victims in the form of restraining orders, digital content removal, and restitution. Victim-centered legislation should prioritize providing the support necessary for victims to heal and regain their sense of control, both digitally and emotionally. Community mobilization and local action. While national and international efforts are critical in addressing sextortion, local action is equally important. In many African countries, community mobilization plays a pivotal role in addressing social issues and bringing about meaningful change. By engaging communities at the grassroots level, we can ensure that sextortion is recognized as a serious issue that requires collective action. Local leaders, including religious figures, community elders, and educators, can be instrumental in raising awareness about sextortion and promoting safe online behavior. These community leaders often have the trust and respect of their peers, making them ideal messengers for spreading messages about online safety, digital consent, and reporting mechanisms. Engaging local communities can also help dismantle the stigma surrounding sextortion and encourage victims to seek help without fear of judgment or retribution. In rural areas, where access to technology and digital resources may be limited, local organizations can offer valuable support in educating individuals about the risks of sextortion and providing resources to prevent it. These efforts should focus not just on educating individuals, but also on fostering a sense of community responsibility for ensuring the safety of young people online. Local action can also be supported by governments and NGOs through funding and resources for outreach programs. By partnering with local organizations, international bodies can help extend the reach of anti-sextortion initiatives and ensure that communities across the continent have the tools they need to address the issue. Strengthening international policy and treaties. As sextortion continues to be a cross-border issue, strengthening international policies and treaties is essential to combat crime effectively. The complexities of the internet and cybercrime require coordinated efforts among countries to ensure that laws are enforced uniformly across borders. International treaties and conventions should be updated to specifically address the growing threat of sextortion, ensuring that countries are legally obligated to cooperate in investigations and the prosecution of perpetrators. Existing international frameworks, such as the Council of Europe's Convention on Cybercrime, provide a foundation for addressing online exploitation and related crimes. However, as sextortion becomes more widespread, additional protocols and measures should be introduced to ensure that countries are working together to tackle this issue. At the same time, international organizations can provide technical assistance and resources to countries that may lack the capacity to address sextortion effectively. This could involve providing law enforcement agencies with the necessary training, tools, and technologies to investigate cybercrimes, as well as creating platforms for sharing intelligence on criminal networks involved in sextortion. By enhancing cooperation and building stronger international networks, we can create a more robust global response to this growing threat. A call for action. The growing threat of sextortion highlights the need for a comprehensive, coordinated, and sustained global response. By addressing the issue from multiple angles, through legal reforms, public awareness campaigns, technological innovations, victim support systems, and community mobilization, we can create a safer online environment and help prevent the exploitation of vulnerable individuals. However, this will not be achieved without a collective effort from all sectors of society. Governments, law enforcement, technology companies, NGOs, educators, and individuals must come together to create a united front against sextortion. Only through collaboration, innovation, and sustained commitment can we hope to protect individuals from the devastating consequences of online exploitation and create a digital world that is safe, respectful, and empowering for all. The time to act is now. By taking bold, proactive steps to combat sextortion, we can ensure that the internet remains a space where people can connect, learn, and grow without fear of exploitation. The role of African leaders in combating sextortion. African leaders, both political and social, have a crucial role to play in addressing the growing threat of sextortion. As key decision makers, they must not only enforce stronger legal frameworks, but also ensure that prevention, victim support, and education are prioritized at the national level. In many African nations, leaders are already committed to tackling cybercrimes, but there is still significant room for improvement when it comes to addressing sextortion directly. Leaders should make it a priority to integrate cybersecurity into national development agendas, ensuring that resources are allocated for digital literacy programs, law enforcement training, and victim support services. They should encourage cross-border collaborations that facilitate the sharing of information and resources to tackle sextortion networks operating internationally. African leaders can set an example by advocating for stronger regional and international frameworks for cybersecurity and digital rights. Moreover, African leaders must recognize the intersection of sextortion with broader social issues such as poverty, gender inequality, and the lack of access to quality education. To fully address sextortion, there needs to be a holistic approach that addresses the underlying social determinants that make individuals more vulnerable to online exploitation. Advice to African leaders. As Africa continues its digital transformation, the fight against sextortion should be viewed not just as a law enforcement issue, but as part of the broader mission to protect the rights and dignity of individuals, particularly the most vulnerable. African leaders must take decisive steps to 1. Strengthen legal frameworks. Enact and enforce laws that specifically target sextortion, ensuring that perpetrators are held accountable. These laws should be regularly reviewed and updated to address emerging trends and technological advancements. 2. Invest in digital literacy and education. Promote digital literacy across all age groups, with a focus on teaching young people about the risks of sextortion, digital consent, and online safety. Incorporate this education into school curricula, community workshops, and public awareness campaigns. 3. Ensure victim-centered policies. Create accessible, culturally sensitive victim support systems that provide counseling, legal assistance, and digital security measures to help those affected by sextortion recover and regain control of their lives. 4. Enhance cross-border cooperation. Work with international partners to strengthen regional and global collaborations that facilitate the identification, prosecution, and prevention of sextortion across borders. 5. Foster public-private partnerships. Engage with tech companies to develop proactive solutions, such as advanced security features, content moderation tools, and user reporting systems to detect and prevent sextortion before it escalates. 6. Encourage social responsibility. Leaders should set an example by promoting ethical behavior online, leading public discussions that challenge harmful societal norms around sexuality, privacy, and exploitation. Summary of key messages. The fight against sextortion in Africa requires a multifaceted approach involving law enforcement, technology, education, victim support, and international cooperation. By strengthening legal frameworks, advancing digital literacy, and fostering cross-border collaborations, African nations can mitigate the risks posed by sextortion and protect their citizens, especially the most vulnerable, from online exploitation. Victim support must be a cornerstone of the response, with governments and NGOs working to provide comprehensive care, including legal advice, psychological support, and practical tools to help individuals recover. Community involvement and public awareness campaigns are essential in ensuring that citizens are equipped with the knowledge to protect themselves and others from digital harm. Technology must also play a central role, with social media platforms, tech companies, and law enforcement utilizing AI-driven tools to detect and prevent sextortion before it happens. However, as technology evolves, it is crucial that privacy and ethical considerations are maintained, ensuring that any protective measures respect individual freedoms. Finally, African leaders must lead by example, driving legislative reforms, supporting digital education, and fostering a culture of online responsibility and respect. With commitment, collaboration, and innovation, Africa can create a digital landscape where everyone is safe from exploitation and free to engage online without fear. The time for action is now, and it is through collective efforts, at the government, community, corporate, and individual levels, that sextortion can be effectively addressed and eliminated, ensuring a safer future for all Africans in the digital era. Thank you for watching this in-depth analysis on the Bold African Voice BAV. If you find this video insightful, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Join us in our mission to raise awareness and push for change in the fight against online exploitation. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content. Together, we make the difference in creating a safer, more secure digital world for everyone.